Okay, so I've ranked all of Michael's movies, and I've ranked all of Jason's. So the next logical step would be to go to ranking Freddy's films, right? Now, this is going to be the last time I'm going to be doing ranking for all the slasher films, because every other movie, like Leprechaun and Hellraiser and all that, and Leatherface, yeah, a lot of those films I really, like, aside from a few, there's a lot of films in those franchises I really don't like. And it would be really hard to rank those. And besides, I really don't feel like ranking every single horror movie franchise, in my opinion. And that's that's the other thing. Keep in mind, once again, that this is just my personal opinion of how I rank these films. If you think a movie should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. No ill will against you. I'm always excited to see where these films in particular rank for you guys. I'm always interested to see where these movies could rank for you guys. So without further ado, let's dive into the nightmares. And of course, I'm going to be going from worst to best, and you guys can already guess what my favorite of the Nightmare franchise is. So, act surprised when you do. But yeah. Anywho, so yeah, as I said, it's going to go from worst to best, and we're going to kick things off with Nightmare 5: The Dream Child. You see, a lot of people were thinking, really? Not Freddy's Dead? That's not your least favorite? Nightmare 5? And yeah, Nightmare 5 is a really shitty movie. But the reason why I hate it the most is because it's so fucking boring. If you're gonna be a bad movie, at least entertain me. But this movie at least doesn't have the goddamn common courtesy to even do that. Oh, this movie is long and boring. I don't care about any of these characters. The only interesting kill is when the guy gets merged with the motorcycle. There's some great effects there. Yeah, everything else can just go fuck itself. I really don't care about this whole, and all the weird effects and all that. It was just a really sloppy story, so Nightmare 5, yeah, The Dream Child, fuck that movie. Anyway, so moving right along to Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. This movie I like a little more. It's still a really bad movie. Also, fun fact, weirdly enough, this was my first... I remember distinctly this being the first time I ever watched a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I know, it's just like, the first Nightmare on Elm Street, the first Halloween movie was Halloween 5. The first Jason movie I watched was... It was like part 3, although admittedly that's a good jumping on point for Jason fans. And the final Nightmare movie is the movie I jump into. Yeah, it's really weird how I jump into all these sequels, but yeah. So the reason why I put Freddy's Dead is a little higher is because it's entertaining, but it's still terrible. I do like the Power Glove death. I mean, yeah, Freddy's pretty much a demented Bugs Bunny in this movie, but it kind of works. But it's like, at this point, you kind of feel it, and it's kind of fun, and Robert Englund's clearly having fun with the role. So I do appreciate it for that. I really do appreciate it for doing that. But everything else, this movie's bad, and also the weird, we have to spend half the movie explaining Freddy's origin, whatever. But... at least I give it a little more. I give it a little higher because it's mildly more entertaining than The Dream Child. But anyway, so next up on the list is the Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake. It's still bad, and I was debating on whether or not I should put this higher or lower than Freddy's Dead. But the reason I gave it points for being a little higher was because there is some good stuff in here of like talking about micronaps, but they never really explain it. There's some interesting ideas here and there with Freddy and the concept of his dream powers, but they never go all in with it. And Jackie Earle Haley, let's face it, guys, Robert Englund sold that role. That is forever his role. But Jackie Earle Haley, even Englund said that he really enjoyed Haley's interpretation of Freddy. And he really gives it his all. He really does give it his all as Freddy Krueger. It's just, but the rest of the cast is just kind of boring. Also, again, another Platinum Dunes horror remake that uses CW CW actors. Looking at you, Katie Cassidy. Anyway, So, the reason I gave it a little more was mostly on Jackie Earle Haley's performance as Freddy. Everything else in here, it's still pretty bad. Anyway, so let's move on to part 4, the Dream Master. Now, the Dream Master is not, well, it does have a problem with, you know, getting rid of a lot of this, everything interesting about the Dream Warriors film, which kind of pisses off me and a lot of other fans. But there's some neat, innovative kills in here. Probably some of the most innovative effects as well for the characters in the film and in the dream sequences. I especially love the cockroach, the girl turning into a cockroach, slowly metamorphosizing into it. It's grotesque. It's awful. It's a memorable kill in that film. And there's a few other memorable moments where the effects really play out. I enjoy the effects, but the new character they bring in and all the others, yeah, it's not great. And following the Dream Child, you don't care about these characters even further. So why fucking bother to begin with, right? So there you go, the Dream Master. So next up on the list is Freddy vs. Jason. But you already counted it in your Friday the 13th movies, DPZ. True. But I'm including it here because it's also a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, technically speaking. So, Freddy vs. Jason, I've already talked about it. I enjoy this movie. It's a fun, stupid popcorn flick. The characters are total shit and they're just cannon fodder. But they totally deliver on the Freddy vs. Jason part. They so deliver on that aspect. Also, like I said before, it's kind of fun to think because Jason Ritter, who voices Dipper Pines in Gravity Falls, is in this movie as the main one of the main protagonists. And it's in my mind, it's fun to think that Dipper fought Freddy and Jason at one point. It's kind of fun like that. Anyway, so there you go, Freddy vs. Jason. Following that, we have Freddy Nightmare 2: Freddy's Revenge. This movie is really diverse in the Nightmare fandom, probably because it's really so out there. I mean, it's cool to see a dark Freddy, and that scene where he just goes ham on all of those people in that pool party is awesome. It's really awesome. The main character is interesting, and it's also kind of interesting to have Freddy like try to take over his mind. I know the protagonist, some people are like half and half on. I kind of enjoy him. I kind of enjoy following this poor kid as he's slowly being possessed by Freddy. There's some great effects in here too, and it's nice to see Dark Freddy while still being funny. I don't get the claws coming out of the fingers though without the glove. I don't get that. Whoever made that decision, that was an odd one. But it's nice to see Dark Freddy. And this was actually the second to last time we'd actually get like a Dark Freddy. Up until, I'm sorry to say, until Freddy vs. Jason, and then again in the 2010 remake. Because after, oh well, there's another movie, and we'll talk about that right now. New Nightmare from Wes Craven. Yeah, Wes Craven's New Nightmare was such a neat take on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and making it a movie within a movie. Freddy also looks completely badass. The story with Heather Langenkamp, falling in between the dream world and whatnot. There's not a lot of big kills, but it's definitely a great psychological film. And Wes Craven, I believe this came out shortly after Scream. Once again, proved of why he was such a titan of the horror genre. He really once again planted that flag again and said, "This is why I'm king. This is why I'm a king, people." So, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, totally. So my second favorite Nightmare film is The Dream Warriors. Wes Craven's other, of the many Nightmare on Elm Street films, one of the 3 that he directly was responsible for. This feels like a true sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street. Again, no disrespect to Freddy's Revenge, but this movie had some great effects. You really care about the characters. You really feel bad when one of them dies. You really feel for them, and it really goes into Freddy's origin without being completely weird about it. The story of Nancy and where her storyline goes is really cool. and it's really heartbreaking. It's one of the few times we see one of the final girls die in an act of heroism. And again, Dream Master kind of ruins the ending of this film. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Dream Master. Anyway, so there you go, Dream Warriors. What can I say? Also, that rockin' theme music by Dokken. Yeah, that song makes the movie. Like, it's just a little a little added treat. Also, welcome to prime time, bitch! Anyway, so at number 1, you could probably guess, yeah, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie, not only was it prove that you can do, great horror about the cool sequence, but also this movie, this movie essentially helped make New Line Cinema what it is today. Yeah, a lot of people seem to forget that New Line Cinema was a small-time studio, and then when Nightmare on Elm Street happened, it helped make them bigger. It's essentially the house that Freddy built, in a way. This movie, again, also proved, once again, of why Wes Craven is remembered as a titan of horror. This has got some great lines. Robert Englund kills it, pun intended, with the role of Freddy. He planted that flag and gave us some memorable kills, a memorable character, and a reason why we're afraid to go to sleep sometimes. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much all my list. That's pretty much the list on a whole. Once again, I mean, no disrespect to anybody. If you think a movie should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. No ill will against you. I'm always excited to see where these films rank in turn for you guys. So you guys tell me in the comments below. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.